Everybody to the front. Well, yeah, good morning, guys. How are y'all doing? Good. Despite some technical difficulties, we're here and got it all figured out. So, yeah, I'm excited about this class. So, if you guys heard or if you can't see, it's for talking about athletic performance, strength and endurance, and herbs for that. Although this is kind of like a strong point for me, a topic I'm real familiar with and I'm really passionate about. So, yeah, I'm really excited about this and just honored and blessed to be able to be here to speak with you guys and share some information I have. I don't claim to be the expert, but I do have a lot of history and my own experience, and then learning a lot and taking classes, and so I think I got some good stuff to share with you guys. Hopefully you'll benefit from this. It is a class on herbs, so I am going to get to the herbs, but I felt it was really important and it would be a disservice if I didn't go a little bit more in depth on nutrition and kind of lay that foundation going into herbs, because herbs are awesome. I love herbs. I use them myself and using them for years when I competed athletically and still to this day. So yeah, I'll get to the herbs, so bear with me. There's a lot of notes. I may not talk about everything, but it give you guys a good resource to go home and study with, and yeah, a lot of stuff. So how many of you were here last week? You were? Okay. I'm just going to do just a real quick recap from last week, just some things that are really relevant to this class. And so starting with the Word of God, in Genesis 1:29, he said, "See, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food." So it was clear from the beginning that God's design was us to eat this, the fruits, the fresh produce, the fruits, the vegetables, everything that bears seeds. And then I love, as I was preparing for class last week, I came across and was reminded of the story of Daniel. If you guys are familiar, I'm not sure if you are, but the story about Daniel, and so I'll just read this and kind of explain my take on all of it. But Daniel proposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's delicacies, which was supposedly the best food of the days at that time. A lot of meat, a lot of wine. Yeah, so Daniel said, "Please test your servants for 10 days and let them give us vegetables." Other translations like the King James say pulse, actually, because it actually means more than just vegetables. And a lot of, if you go back and look at the root of that, it actually means the seed-bearing items. So, and a lot of commentaries say that they're basically referring to pulse as like the fresh produce of the day, the fruit, the vegetables, the nuts, the seeds, that type of stuff. So he asked for pulse to eat and water to drink. Then let our appearance be examined before you, and at the end of 10 days their features appeared better and fatter in flesh than all the young men who ate the king's portions. And fatter in flesh means not fatter, but fatter in flesh, like they were more muscular, they were more fit. So this is fascinating. You can go into a lot about that, and the story goes on if you read it. I didn't put it all in here for the sake of the notes because they're already so long, but it goes on that for years they eat this diet and go before the king, Nebuchadnezzar, I believe, and he finds that they're 10 times as smart, 10 times better than all of the other people in the land, which and a lot of people think about that as being, fit and athletically too, but intelligent and wise. So there's a lot to be said about eating the way God created things and not eating the supposed best foods and the meats and the delicacies of the day. So, yeah, that's kind of point number one, is that God's design from the beginning was perfect, and then society's kind of changed all that. So, yeah, the next really important foundational thing is what we, and this has kind of been drilled into me over the studies that I've done, what we eat, what we drink, the air we breathe, and what we put on our skin determines the quality of our cells and our internal environment. So yeah, a lot of people don't, they think about what they eat, but yeah, it is determining what you breathe and what you put on your skin. Skin's the largest largest organ on the body, and everything you put on the skin absorbs into the bloodstream. So it's really important. People are putting chemicals on their body too. So, and almost all tissue failure begins with acidosis and toxicity. So I'll get into more of that, but and maybe I'll explain just a little bit of what acidosis is. And I'll expand on it more later, but being in an acidic environment in our body, we weren't designed to be acidic in our body. We were designed to be primarily alkaline, and based on all those factors that I just talked about, we become acidic, and that's caused a lot of problems. So, the other real good point is that God designed our bodies to heal themselves if we treat them properly and give them the right stuff to do so. And like I said last week, herbal medicine has been around for, has a written history going back over 5,000 years and goes well beyond that. That's just as far as they can find the actual written. So I'm convinced that in the Garden of Eden, God was there telling Adam what herbs were good for what, and the bark of this tree will take away pain, and this will do this, and that's just been passed down from generation to generation. So herbs are powerful, and it goes way back. And then kind of the last point before I kind of get into this class is for best results, I love herbs, but they're to be used as part of a complete nutritional program, including lifestyle changes designed to improve over health. We got to consider the whole individual. We're body, soul, and spirit. So we can't just address the physical stuff, but we have to address mental, emotional, spiritual. Everything ties together, and if one's lacking, it affects the others. So that's kind of a little foundation and overview from last week, kind of flowing into this week. So I want to get into nutrition for athletic performance. Some of this I might go through kind of quick, and like I said, I might not touch on all the notes. If you have any questions, feel free to write them down. We're going to wait to the end to kind of ask those questions just to flow through the class as quickly as possible. But I will answer questions at the end if you have any. So, nutrition for athletic performance. And I guess just a real quick thing before I get into the notes, I want to give a slight background on me related to athletic performance and all that, because I grew up loving sports, being an athlete, being a smaller framed guy. I was always looking for something to give me that edge, that athletic advantage, and not knowing any better, I reached out to all this stuff at I guess I won't name places, but places that sell these products that are supposed good for your health and going to increase your performance, but a lot of them are synthetic stimulants and actually damage the body. And so, but I was just always looking for that stuff and interested in athletic performance, and so I began to study what top athletes did, and I got into bodybuilding and was a high-level track athlete and football player, baseball player, and continued to compete as early as last year. I still competed in some track events and won some gold medals, and so I love being athletic and keep taking care of our bodies. But previous, I did kind of what the general rule was for athletes, and eating a high protein diet. I was eating 6 to 7 meals a day, every meal with a big portion of meat, a big portion of carbs, and after a while my blood pressure rose. I wasn't recovering as quickly. I wasn't feeling as good. My energy levels weren't as high, and I began to search for answers. So God's kind of taken me on a journey, and since then I've learned from high-level athletes, naturopathic doctors. One of the classes I take through the College of Natural Health is a certification to become a certified holistic sports nutritional consultant and practitioner, specifically for sports, because that's the area of emphasis. But yeah, I've studied under different, or studied about different high-level athletes that have eaten for success. So yeah, a lot of this isn't my info. It's just info I've learned from a lot of other people that have successfully done it, and then I've implemented a lot of it in my life and seen how it's benefited me. So yeah, people today are interested in exercise because it helps our health. It's supposed to make you more healthy, help you live longer. But what a lot of people don't realize is there's a difference between being in shape and being healthy down to the cellular level. Because you can put a lot of stress onto your body during exercise, and if you aren't feeding it the proper things, you might get more in shape and more fit, but it's actually damaging your body and taking away from your body in the long term. So a lot of people don't realize that. So I'm going to talk about this concept called the acid-alkaline balance, and I was talking about acidity being a problem, and excuse me, acidity being a problem, and that God designed us to be more alkaline. And this is a big concept and stuff that I've learned, and it's really important for healing and regeneration and everything, but especially important for athletes and people that are physically, because of the amount of stress you put on your body. So yeah, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to break down really quickly. And so yeah, how can athletes protect themselves from this? And of course it starts with a healthy diet, resting, cutting back on acidic producing stuff. I'm not going to break down the whole list of what's acid producing, what's alkaline producing. You can look up resources that explain that, but in general, meats, processed foods, sugars, alcoholic beverages, they're all acid producing. In general, fruits, whole fruits, vegetables, nuts. Nuts are alkaline or neutral. Those are alkaline forming foods that we need to focus on. So yeah, and God intended us to primarily consume alkaline forming foods. He talked about it from the beginning. You know, acids, just a real quick note on acids, they cause change, they break down tissue, they cause inflammation, they cause mucus formation, they inhibit the detoxification and oxygenation process and cause free radical damage. So they are important in our diet, and we need acids to break down food and to do different things, but we need to primarily be alkaline. An alkaline environment promotes an oxygen-rich environment, which is really important for athletes and for everybody. Encourages detoxification at the cellular level, soothes inflamed tissue, and enhances cellular function. So yeah, so much as I read has been on this importance of this acid-alkaline balance. And a lot of people talk about the diet needing to be as much as 70 or 90% alkaline forming foods, somewhere in that range. You know, I would say probably, yeah, 80 to 90% is what I would think and what I feel good on when I'm doing it. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with or heard of a guy named Brendan Brazier, but I talk about him and quote him a little bit in here because he's in some of my textbooks, and he's a phenomenal is or was a phenomenal athlete. I put some of his accomplishments in here, being a professional triathlon, Ironman, 2-time Canadian ultra marathon champion. He runs a sports nutrition company now, sold books, but he's got a little quote in here that says, "It amazes me how little the value of balanced pH has garnished from the mainstream medical world. Positive acid-alkaline balance is one of the most important factors in athletic performance." So I won't read the whole thing, but basically, yeah, that's a guy that's saying that it's one of the most important factors. And this is a guy who's had a lot of experience do that among other athletes. So he talks about for recovery to be expedited, alkalizing foods, especially those rich in chlorophyll like greens, need to be consumed. You know, coming from, like I said, the background I have, it's always about, with athletes, consuming protein and whey protein shakes and soy protein. And, you know, he talks about in here, but those can fulfill your protein needs, but most of them are acid forming and don't have the other nutrients necessary so that a plant-based protein would have. A plant-based protein is going to have the other nutrients necessary. It's going to have a high source of protein, balance your pH, all of that. So yeah, I used to pound those whey proteins, and man, how they affected me in a negative way. I started to get some early signs of, you know, even arthritis and stiff joints, and as I changed my diet and alkalized, all that went away. So let's see here. I'll go over to the next page, plant-based diet. Page A, like I said, you can kind of go through these notes a little bit more later on your own time, but plant-based diet is really important, and God said it from the beginning, what his intention was. So I start off this plant-based diet section with talking about these ancient cultures. There's a lot of studies been done on these and I guess I won't call them ancient cultures, but they're cultures that are around today that still live like their original ways, living off the land, being active, farming. You know, they haven't been corrupted with the processed foods and everything of today. So, you know, there's several of these studies across the world that people have studied, and there's been books written on them. Healthy to 100, I think, by Robbins is a book that's out there that you can look as a resource. But these cultures regularly live into their hundreds with no incidence of cancer, degenerative diseases, or heart disease, and they stay active daily into their old age, into their hundreds, climbing mountains, and it's phenomenal. One of these guys that went out there to study them, he was an active guy. He considered himself healthy, and he's there with these guys that are 90, 100, 110, and he can't keep up with them climbing the mountain. It's just phenomenal. Like, that's the way God designed our bodies to be. We're not supposed to be failing, in our health in our 50s, 60s, 70s. So it's a testament to sticking with the way God designed things. So, and it's fascinating at the end of that first paragraph A, I talked about their average carbohydrate content was 70 to 75% of their calories. So mostly carbohydrates. Fat was 15 to 18%. Protein was 10 to 13%. So minimal, even though they were highly active every day. And their total calories consumed was only about 17 to 1800 per day. And most of it was from plant foods, 90 to 99%. If they ate meat, it was only on a rare occasion, once in a great while. It's a big difference between today and the agendas of today of pushing meat, you need meat. And it's not true. And I used to think that way. And like I said, eat large portions of meat 6 to 7 times a day. It's just crazy. And once I realized how I could get that nutrition from plants, it's way more beneficial, balancing the pH, all that. So, paragraph B, whole foods are always more nutritious than their refined counterparts. And God created these foods intelligently and perfect with their nutrients, water, fiber, enzymes, everything intact together. And that's important. We get away from it and think that we can do something better than the way God created it. And that's just not true. That's man trying to put himself above God. And we just need to always reconnect with partnering with God the way he designed things. So, I know a lot of these statements in here might be controversial to a lot of people, but time and time again, I've seen athletes and my studies and everything showing this stuff, that when we process foods and even when we cook them, we damage the nutrients in the food. It removes the water, destroys the enzymes. The heating actually fuses the foods into molecules that they weren't designed to be in, and our digestive system has a hard time recognizing it and realizing what to do with it. There's been tons of studies showing that when you cook food and you eat it, there's actually an immune response. Increased white cell activity in the body, because your body's going, there's a foreign stuff in the body and we need to figure out how to get rid of it because it can't even identify the food. That's been shown in several studies. So yeah, I'm a big fan of eating a raw or close to raw diet. Some cooking food can help, but for the most part it damages and denatures the food. So quoting Brendan Brazier again, a high-level athlete, been successful on several levels. He found that nutrients must be secured from eating a variety of fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds the way God intended us to receive our nutrition. There's an important note here. I didn't put it in the notes, again, for the sake of the notes, but talking about Brendan Brazier, he actually had a hard time initially transitioning from a regular meat diet to a plant-based diet. Initially, because he was doing it the wrong way. He understood the general concept, but he went to this, he changed from a meat diet to a plant-based diet and tried eating all these starchy, cooked foods. And he actually found his performance dropped a little bit and his energy dropped. And he goes, what's wrong? And so as he dug deeper, he realized, no, it's actually the live plant foods and coming from, like I said, not the starchy stuff and the pastas. And you can eat vegan and still be sick out of your mind. See it all the time, these high-fat, high-processed vegan diets. But when you get back to, like I said, eating the way God designed it, eating those fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, nuts and seeds as your primary stuff, health returns, energy returns, performance goes up, and that's what he found. So I'm going to get into just breaking down really quick carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, because there's a lot of myths out there and stuff that I used to believe. I guess this is a good time. I want to make a couple just mentions too, because I've switched from a primarily flesh-based, meat-based diet to a primarily plant-based diet. and have found crazy benefits in my own life over the years. Energy levels up, increased recovery, increased performance, because it was a big thought even in my own mind, can I actually increase my strength and keep performance high without meat? Because that's just been so ingrained in my mind. I had to prove it to myself. And so it was fascinating to try this and do it with myself and realize I could recover quicker. I was having less injury. My energy levels were higher. I felt better. It's just crazy, but tons of athletes have been on board with this now for the last couple decades. And so just to name a few, I'm a football guy and a track guy, so those are the ones I kind of pay attention to the most. But you guys may know, especially here in Kansas City, the name Tony Gonzalez. Ring a bell? Yeah? Very, I don't know if he's in the Hall of Fame yet, but he's going to be a Hall of Fame tight end. I mean, one of the most successful tight ends in all of NFL history. And back in 2007, he changed to a vegan diet. So, and this is while he was still competing. He still competed for several years as a high-level football player, muscle, the highest output that you can have, and had a successful time as a vegan. He ended up adding in just a small amount of meat just because I think he liked meat. Some white meat that he would have just very rarely once in a while. But he went all vegan, and then he transitioned just out for a little bit of meat here and there. But Tony Gonzalez. Arian Foster went vegan. He's another running back in the NFL. And it's interesting, the year he went vegan, he took a lot of flack because he did it in the off season. And then his teammates even gave him a hard time, and he ended up having the most productive season he had that next season. So Ricky Williams, another running back in the NFL, he was a vegetarian and continued to compete at a high level, being a vegetarian for 5 years. Carl Lewis, you guys know Carl Lewis? He is a great track athlete from years ago. Back then, he was voted the World Athlete of the Decade and the Olympic Athlete of the Century. So, I mean, he won all sorts of Olympic medals and stuff, and he was a vegan. Just crazy. So it's like, can high-level athletes be successful? Yeah, and if you do it properly, it's better than any other diet there is. So, and there's tons of, you can look up resources and see who's vegetarian, vegan. There's tons of athletes that are on board with it. Because it's sad, the people the athletes that are putting that much stress into their body and are eating a meat-based diet and eating this processed foods, their bodies break down really quick and they can't have a long career. They're injuring. They end up having issues later in life, putting so much stress on their body and not giving it the right things. So anyway, I just make those mentions because, again, this isn't my info, but this is stuff I've learned and seen from tons of other people. So carbohydrates. This is the primary macronutrient our cells need, and subsequently our body is these carbohydrates. So they're made of substances of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen fused together. But there's a lot of misconceptions with carbohydrates and sugars, and but basically the way I understand it, simple sugars should be the main fuel for our body. You got to have the right simple sugars. You don't want processed sugars because those are really bad, acid forming, and cause a lot of disease. And then you have on the other end the complex sugars. So I have a little note in here that says refined or complex sugars, when they're consumed, this creates a glucose overload, which in turn creates excess carbon molecules and is converted into carbon dioxide and carbonic acid. So it's very acid forming, causing a lot of issues in the body. So what are we left with? If you take out the processed simple sugars and you take out most of the complex, some complex is okay, but primarily our body needs simple sugars. So it will break down all the complex carbs into simple sugars. It's just a hard process on the body and ends up being more detrimental. But we're left with simple sugars that come from fruit, vegetables, and some honey. I have a quote in here saying raw fruits and vegetables are balanced in their simple sugars, amino acids, and fatty acids. And this is from Dr. Robert Morse. He calls them God foods because they're designed for humans. This is from Dr. Robert Morse. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. I take classes through him and am getting certified as a detoxification specialist and healer. He He's a naturopathic doctor in Florida that's been practicing for almost 40 years and world renowned for healing people and regenerating people of all diseases. He gets the worst of the worst, cancer cases, degenerative diseases, and he's got a very, very high success of healing these people because he's just bringing them back into the balance that God created for us. So, yeah, that's a quick thing on carbs. But the main thing we need is fuel. It's fuel for us. Energy is what that is. So the next thing I want to hit on is protein, because that's probably the biggest thing in athletics is people want to know protein, protein, protein. And you don't actually need as much protein as people want you to think. You just need the right type of protein. So yeah, the term protein is designated as a structure created from chained amino acids. So your body actually can't use protein. We have to take the proteins, this structure, and break them down, digest them into their basic principles, the amino acids, and then the body uses those simpler structures to rebuild. Amino acids are good for a lot of things, but yeah, that's kind of the brief version of that. So yeah, so the question that everybody always has is, how much protein do we need? And it's kind of a hard question to answer because everybody's a little bit different, but we don't need as much protein as people would want you to think. And I've proven this in myself, and it's been proven time and time again. You just need high quality protein. So yeah, I put some questions in here that are kind of funny. Have you ever met somebody with a protein deficiency? It doesn't exist. Most Americans consume an average of 16% of calories from protein. And it's been shown that that's way more than what's necessary. And a high protein diet causes acid formation and leads to arthritis and a host of issues. Yeah, I put the overconsumption of protein causes acidosis, stress on the body, toxicity, and leads to a host of diseases, including cancer and heart disease. It's been proven in studies time and time again, if you have too much protein. Same with too much fat. I'm going to get into that too. But plant foods range on average from 5 to 28% protein. You know, and a lot of people don't realize that there are a lot of plants that have high protein values. Yeah, and I have to agree with Dr. Douglas Graham. He's somebody who I'd studied under, and he's trained high-level athletes, Olympic athletes. He's a raw foodist. He's the author of a book called 80-10-10, talking about 80% of your calories coming from carbs and 10 from protein and 10 from fats. But yeah, I would have to agree with him, that's saying even for athletes, you need a maximum of 10% of your daily calories from protein. So I like the 10% rule because I think that kind of covers how much protein you need, because you figure out how much you're roughly burning, and as an athlete performs more, works out more, the caloric intake, the calories he needs goes up. So therefore, you know, if it's the 10%, that protein, the percentage of those calories goes up as well with the activity, and it automatically calculates for how much more protein you need, as long as you're eating good quality foods. Does that make sense? I know I'm kind of going through this kind of quick, but if you focus on a number, everybody wants to know the number. We need 100 grams of protein per day. Well, you can't say something like that, because everybody is weight different, their amount of muscle they are, their activity is different. There are ways to calculate your daily caloric need roughly. There's things on websites you can look up, or ways to find out roughly what your calorie needs are based on your activity level, your weight, your body fat, all of that. So if you're consuming the right amount, the right percentage of these, it takes care of that need. Because like I said, as your calorie intake goes up, because you're exercising more, you're automatically getting more protein, more fats, more carbs. So yeah, and fats. So fats are very important as well. Fats are broken down to fatty acids and are important in our diet. However, the right kinds of fats and the right amount is super critical. So again, in our society, it's you know, the high protein is really high, but then also very high fat in our diet too, which has been led to all those issues as well, the cancer, the heart disease, all that. So yeah, I put the standard American diet is loaded with excess fats and mostly low quality rancid fats, these cooked, hydrogenated vegetable oils and just a host of different bad fats. So we should keep it simple. And realize that all the substances that your body requires, including fats, are found in fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. It's like God knew what he was doing or something. I know, right? So yeah, a high-fat diet is one of the biggest contributors to cancer and heart disease and leads to a decline in oxygenation. So this is important too. When you get too much fat, it lowers the oxygenation of the bloodstream, of the tissues, which, how important is that for just energy, for life, but for athletes especially. So I've seen this. Like I said, my stamina went down as I ate the standard American diet. My endurance went down and my recovery went down. I still increased strength and that type of stuff, but as I switched to a plant-based diet and alkalized more and all that and got rid of high fat, high protein, all of a sudden my stamina, my endurance, my recovery was just out the roof. It's just crazy. So, and several top, I put this in here, but several top people in the health industry have acknowledged that healthy fats are important, but agree that our calories should not exceed 10%. So I listed some of these top centers and doctors around the world that have talked about and all agree no more than 10% of our calories should be from protein, otherwise it starts causing issues. So, and that could be pretty controversial to some people, but again, I list some sources that I get that through and have found it to be very true in my life, and a lot of other athletes say the same thing. So, hopefully that all kind of makes sense. There's so much, it was hard with this class because there's so much information that I want to cover in only a certain amount of time. I could go way more into the complexities of this carb, protein, fats, and the needs of our body, but this is kind of the simplistic snapshot of each and what we need. So hopefully that makes sense. And maybe if there's enough demand at some point, if people want to know more about this, it's like kind of my favorite topic of athletic stuff. I'll do like a series just on athletes and go more in depth on it. But so if people ask and want it, maybe we'll end up doing that. I would love that. But so getting into food combining, before I get into the supplements and the herbs and all that, food combining is another one of the super important principles to our health and for strength and endurance and power and energy. So, don't be trouble here. So how many people have heard, you are what you eat? Yeah? Everybody? It's true to some degree, but not completely true. So what I found as I've studied and is you're not just what you eat, but what you can actually assimilate. So what does that mean? We can eat something, but if we don't digest it properly and break it down, because like I said, your body can't use carbohydrates in the form we eat them. It can't use fats and it can't use proteins. It has to break those down to the fatty acids, the amino acids, and the glucose and glycogen and all that. And if your body can't do that properly, it never can break those down into a form where you can actually use them. And a lot of that nutrition is going in and out. And so a lot of people have compromised digestion. They're not food combining properly, which is causing foods not to break down properly, causing putrefaction, fermentation, and it never breaks down to the way it was supposed to, so our body can actually use it. So food combining, really important. When food is combined properly, the human digestive abilities are accelerated and the nutrients are quickly dispersed into the body for optimum nutrition, which leads to attaining the ultimate power, strength, and endurance. So I took this out of a book that one of my class books. It's called the Acid Alkaline Association Diet Sports Nutrition book. So, it's important that we combine foods properly because some need an alkaline environment to break down and some need an acid environment to break down. If you combine them at the same time, the acid and alkaline neutralize and they sit in your stomach forever. They never get broken down. It causes gas, bloating, indigestion, all that type of stuff. So, paragraph L, I state, if you observe proper food combinations, you will end this acid regurgitation, ulcerations, bloating, and gas commonly associated with violating these natural laws. So, bad food combining just leads to a ton of things. So, as well as toxicity, when that stuff's fermenting and that stuff's putrefying in your digestive tract, it leads to toxic stuff, and your body can't get rid of certain things, and it's releasing certain things. So it's bad stuff. And keep in mind that the fewer types of food you combine, the better the digestion. So we were meant to eat things more simple. If I ask you guys to think of 10 different things all at the same time, you would be confused. We're only meant to be able to focus on one thing at a time with our brain. And it's kind of like that with our digestive system. Today's world, we want to have a dinner that's got like 10, 15 different items all combined with the ketchup and the barbecue sauce and the bread and the meat and and we're mixing all this stuff and eating it, and our body's going, what the heck is going on in there? We don't know what to do with that. The body was designed to, you eat something, it recognizes, oh, I know what that is. I'll secrete the proper things and break that bad boy down. We're violating these food combinations. We need to eat more simple the way God designed it. He didn't design us to sit down and eat a hamburger with the bun and whatever, cheese and barbecue sauce and ketchup and then whatever else is with that. Yeah, I don't know, but and then eating ice cream at the end and drinking milk and fruit juice, and it's like, what? And I used to do this stuff. And I don't know if you guys have ever noticed this, but when I've eaten a meal like that sometimes, I can feel it sit in my stomach for hours and hours. I've even had times where I ate a meal at night and I woke up in the morning and burped and I could taste the food again. That's not good. Not good. It shouldn't sit in the stomach that long. It should break down. Food should go in and break down quickly and be absorbed and assimilated. So this food combining is very important. Again, I'm laying it. I know I'm talking about a lot before I talk about the herbs, but this is important, and I felt it was needed. So, the two most, I'm not going to break down all the food combining, but you can get resources on that. But the two most important tips to remember is never mix proteins, which are an acid. They need an acid medium to break them down. Never mix those with carbohydrates, especially starches that need an alkaline environment to break down. When you mix those, so the whole steak and potatoes, that's actually a bad thing. Because one needs alkaline, one needs acid. They cancel each other out. Or the hamburger with the big bun, that's actually a bad thing. So never mix the proteins and the carbs, the starches, together. And second would be separate your consumption of fruits or melons from any other type of food. So the rule on melons is melons, eat them alone or leave them alone. Eat them by themselves or don't eat them at all. And kind of same with fruit. You can combine different fruits together, but some are even more acid fruits, subacid, and sweet fruits. But most fruits you can just combine together and it's not an issue. Simplicity is always the best. It's not about how much you eat, but it's whether you can digest, absorb, utilize, and eliminate what you've eaten. So keep your diet simple, keep your life simple, relax, enjoy what you're eating. God designed us to enjoy food without putting 100 different things on it. Chew your food well. I put that in here because it's it's the first stage of digestion is properly chewing our food. And your mouth actually secretes enzymes in the mouth that starts the digestion process. So most people are inhaling their food, and it's these big chunks of food in the body, which makes it even harder for your digestive system. So all these are just little tips to help maximize digestion, which is maximizing what you absorb, which is maximizing your energy, physical output, all of that. So, yeah. Is this good? Are you guys getting? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, my mouth's pretty dry today. Must have been my morning run. I didn't rehydrate enough. So, getting into supplementation. This is where I'll start getting into the herbs and all that, but important notes on supplementation first is, I believe that supplementation is critical in our world today because of the low quality foods, the minerals that are missing out of our foods, this destruction of our food supply, basically. All this processed foods. It's hard to get high quality foods sometimes without spending an arm and a leg. So supplementation can be a confusing topic, and there's so many supplements on the market. Mainstream companies are out there putting money, tons of money into believing, having us believe that these processed things are the best things for us. And most of them are just that. They're processed, they're denatured, they're acid forming, they're toxic. They rob the body of energy. They might give you a response initially, but it's going to rob and bring you down to a lower level, most of these processed supplements. So, yeah, we do need high-quality supplements, and most of them from whole foods. That's why I love herbs. They're a whole food. People consume them as a whole food. But yeah, before I get into the herbs, just a few important supplements, especially for athletes, that I think are the most important would be minerals. Like I said, the foods are so mineral rich. I mean, vitamins too, but especially the minerals. Most people are mineral deficient. So a good quality mineral supplement would be good. Antioxidants, because we put so much stress on our body during working out. And then herbs, which is funny with herbs. I put a little note in here that a lot of herbs are extremely high in minerals, antioxidant properties, and all that. So herbs kind of encompasses that. But yeah, I mean, I know you guys have heard of athletes drinking like electrolyte drinks, and because they understand how important that is. But most of the drinks on the market are processed and sugars and artificial colors. But there's a lot of good quality ones that you can get that don't have that stuff in them. But yeah, and I listed some foods in here that are high in minerals, a lot of herbs and different stuff. You can look over that. A lot of these I'm going to talk about here shortly. But and also, yeah, a lot of buzz regarding the importance of antioxidants. And it is really important because of the stress we put on our body. This oxidative stress is a natural byproduct of physical exercise. So we're not supposed to be scared of that. We're just supposed to be able to eat properly so that our body takes care of that oxidative stress. So slowing that process is how we slow aging, wrinkles, and the breakdown of glands and organs. That must be why I look so young when I'm actually 50. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, we can slow that aging process down and keep our body vitality high. So I list, again, some high antioxidant foods in here, but I'll actually talk about some of those here shortly. So finally, to adaptogenic herbs for athletic performance. And again, I love herbs. I've studied herbs for a while and taken herbs for years and seen it benefit my athletic performance and energy levels. But yeah, especially these adaptogenic herbs. I didn't actually put the definition of adaptogenic herbs in here because I put it in the last class. You can get the notes on our website if you want the last class. But it was coined by a Russian scientist that the Russians, way back in, I think, the 60s or 70s or something like that, they were trying to get their Olympic athletes, trying to find an edge for them to be good in the Olympics. And so they were trying to find natural stuff that would increase the resistance to mental, physical, emotional stress and exercise without having any negative side effects. And they coined these as adaptogens, adaptogenic herbs. And these have been proven for years and hundreds of years and thousands of years to have powerful effects. So I'll go through each of these briefly, but there's a lot of information about each, and this is even just a small snapshot of what they do, but these are the most important points related to the topic of athletes and performance and all that. So Panax ginseng, it's the most studied physical performance herb on the planet. It's been used for thousands of years in traditional Chinese medicine. It's great for energy, physical performance, endurance, endocrine glands, mental focus. Yeah, it is the most studied herb. And a lot of the Chinese that are living into old age attribute their daily intake of ginseng to their vitality, energy levels, all of that. But great for athletes. The next one would be cordyceps mushrooms. And this is one that I didn't used to know a lot about. And then I heard, a quick note on cordyceps before I break it down, but I think back in the early 90s, the Chinese, they had these runners, Olympic runners and swimmers that were breaking all sorts of world records. And people were going, what's going on with this Chinese team? They must be taking performance-enhancing drugs. Must be on steroids. We need to test them. So they tested them, never found any evidence of performance-enhancing drugs. And it came out that the main things that they were supplementing with, they had a good diet, but they were supplementing with cordyceps and some other adaptogenic herbs like rhodiola and Siberian ginseng. But the main one was cordyceps. So I love cordyceps because of its ability to dilate the lungs and increase oxygenation. So some studies say it can increase cellular oxygen absorption by up to 40%. If you have more oxygen, I mean, that's like the main thing the body needs. You can have more energy, more performance. That's huge. But yeah, it's known for all sorts of other things: stamina, increasing heart function, immune system, often compared to ginseng. But yeah, powerful effect on oxygenation, and that's why it's so important for athletes, and especially the endurance athletes, but any athlete. If you can get more oxygen, you can recover quicker, you can have more power. Eleuthero is also known as Siberian ginseng. It's not actually a true ginseng, but they call it Siberian ginseng because it has a lot of properties similar to ginseng. So again, this was found out by the Russians on its ability to increase stamina and endurance, led Soviet Olympic athletes to use it for their training. One of the big ones they used to, help their body cope with stress, adapt to this, perform better, recover quicker, all that type of stuff. You can read more about that. Rhodiola. Rhodiola is one that I joked about last class, that before I even knew what rhodiola was about, I was with this multi-level marketing company that we sold nutritional products, and one of them was a rhodiola pill, and all I knew is you take this rhodiola pill and it gives you energy. That's all I knew. I didn't really fully understand it, but yeah, tremendous ability. And the Vikings attributed their strength, their endurance to the effects of using rhodiola. The Sherpa people used it to climb high altitudes, including Mount Everest, and said it gave them, more energy levels, increased red blood cell count and oxygenation, boost concentration, brain function, physical endurance, performance, that type of stuff. So rhodiola is awesome. Last class I talked about several of these herbs in relation to the adrenal glands, but and for stress and anxiety. But a lot of them are the same ones that are powerful for athletes for some of those same reasons. But maca is one of my favorite ones because it has an amazing taste. It's kind of got a nutty, butterscotchy taste almost. But also it's come on the scene the last couple of decades and been really popular with athletes. It's high in B vitamins, it's high in protein content, but probably the most important thing it has, and it's been called Peruvian ginseng because it comes out of Peru, but the most important aspect of it is its effect on the hormones in the glandular system. It balances the glandular system, and a lot of these herbs you'll see notes that it says helps with the endocrine gland system. I didn't really break down fully what the endocrine gland system is, but the glands are like the government of the body. They run all the functions of the body, and if the glands aren't working good, stuff breaks down. So especially for athletes, you need those glands functioning properly, producing the right steroids, the right hormones in the right levels. And so maca is really powerful for getting those in balance, basically. It doesn't super increase one or the other. It helps balance them out. So a lot of guys are low on testosterone. It'll increase your testosterone. If you're too high on estrogen, it'll lower your estrogen. So anyway, a great one, and it tastes great in shakes. So I love maca. Ashwagandha is another powerful one that comes out of India. And it literally means, I read this somewhere and it was kind of cool, it makes sense. It literally means the grounded strength of a stallion. So talking about the power and the strength that ashwagandha has. So it's known as Indian ginseng. It's a prized adaptogen with a host of effects. It's also well known for immune function and boosting white blood cell count. But yeah, increasing energy, physical performance, all that type of stuff. Ashwagandha is really great, and it's non-stimulating. It's actually one that will a lot of times calm somebody down, but give them energy at the same time. So it calms the nerves, calms the. You can take it at night, and it's safe to take in the evening, and it will actually calm and relax somebody. So I talked about it a lot in the last class related to stress and anxiety. It's powerful for that. Shilajit. Shilajit. It's hard to really call it an herb, but which I didn't break down fully what it is, but it comes out of the Himalayan mountains. Shilajit is like this stuff that oozes out of in between the rocks. It's decomposed plant material from hundreds and thousands of years that's been squished in between the rocks, decomposed. Sounds kind of weird, but when they've studied it and different, what do you call them? Different people of the time would go and they would find this stuff and they'd eat it and it would give them crazy energy and stamina. And so like, what's in this stuff? And they found that it was super high in especially minerals. And Shilajit, the name is called Conqueror of Mountains and Destroyer of Weakness. So again, another one of the cool names, but it holds true. Some people say that Shilajit is one of the most powerful herbs, if you will, because it's like a broken down of hundreds and thousands of plants all in one. So it contains over 85 minerals in their ionic and highly absorbable form. So it's really dense. It's really high in minerals. It promotes the movement of minerals into muscle, tissue, and bones. Yeah, and it's highly prized for athletes, endurance, stamina, strength, but especially, because that high mineral content. So Shilajit, fascinating stuff. Shagam mushroom. So this is a medicinal mushroom, and it actually grows on the side of birch trees up in the northern regions where it's really cold. Yeah, and it's just found to have super high nutrient content and especially antioxidant properties, high amount of minerals. It's one of the highest sources of SOD, it's superoxide dismutase. It's a really powerful antioxidant. So yeah, it gets a lot of its nutrition and these powers, they say, from the actual birch trees. And they actually work together. Sometimes they can infuse a shagam mushroom to a dying birch tree and it'll bring it back to life. But also the same thing, the mushroom pulls nutrients from the tree. And so they wild harvest these mushrooms and just find just awesome benefits out of them. Yeah, it improves mental and physical work capacity, improves exercise recovery, boosts immune system. So yeah, another really powerful herb. It's actually a mushroom, but I put it into this category. Astragalus. Another powerful adaptogen. It's considered a tremendous cellular proliferator, which basically means it strengthens cells. So this is obviously important if we're putting a lot of stress on our body. Has a powerful effect on the adrenal glands, nervous system, endocrine. It's most well known probably for its immune system boosting. It boosts white blood cell count. But yeah, powerful for just bringing the body into balance, nourishing the glands. Again, talking about that endocrine gland system, so powerful for the adrenal glands, which is really important for athletes. So, and then jogulin is the last adaptogenic herb that I put on here. So, but actually, it's been considered and compared to like ginseng, and the active constituents of ginseng that give it its adaptogenic, its powerful effects. They actually say that jogulin has way higher concentrations of it. So some say up to 3 to 4 times more concentration of that. So yeah, that leads to its high adaptogenic properties and helping bring balance to the body under stressful times. It is known to increase strength, endurance, help gain muscle mass, stimulate nitric oxide, which releases, stimulates nitric oxide release, which elicits vasodilation. So nitric oxide is a big thing in the sports industry, if you guys aren't familiar. I used to take supplements, and there's a lot of supplements on the market that will help increase nitric oxide. So what that is it helps open up the blood cells, or open up the blood vessels. More blood flow to the muscles equals more oxygen, more nutrients, more power, more endurance. So that's really sought after from athletes. So jogulin, yeah, a real powerful cure-all and called the immortality herb. So that would be the adaptogenic herbs that I wanted to talk about. There's tons more that you can look into. This is just kind of the main top ones that I know of. But I love learning about new ones and ones that you can grow here. And I did list out some other important herbs and supplements, especially for athletes, that I felt like need mentioning. Deer antler being the number one, and I don't know if you guys have heard of deer antler, if that sounds funny or... The Chinese were known for using deer antler for thousands of years because of its ability to, its growth factors and how it can repair tissue, and as a powerful adaptogen too, but it's not really considered an herb. But yeah, and I've heard it said that no serious athlete would be caught not taking deer antler. That's how powerful it is. It is kind of expensive if you get a natural form of it, because there are companies out there that aren't what they say they are. But because the antlers, they only grow one time of the year. They don't actually harm the deer. They bring them in, they numb them, they cut the tip off, send them back out in the forest to play. But yeah, there are a lot of people that are doing synthetic deer antler or fakes, and real deer antler you can only harvest one time of the year, and it's a natural product, and there's only so much of it, and it can be kind of expensive. But people are making it into a concentrated liquid that's just super powerful. If you think about it, it's like these I wrote in here, in the spring, antlers naturally grow at a crazy, astounding rate of up to 2 centimeters daily at times. So if you think about like us growing like a new leg bone at 2 centimeters a day, like how powerful that is. So they found that it's growing that quickly, and they found these like growth factors in the actual deer antler that are causing it to be able to grow so quickly. These special nutrients and amino acids and growth factors and hormone precursors, all this crazy stuff that's allowing it to grow so quickly. So they said, well, if it's growing so quickly, we can take that and maybe it'll help us grow that quickly or repair that quickly. And so science has since confirmed the presence of all this amazing stuff. It's loaded with amino acids, growth factors, hormone precursors. But yeah, crazy, they call them insulin-like growth factors and other growth factors that our body naturally produces, but especially as we age, we lose the ability to produce as much of that. And you can get a high amount of it in these deer antlers, which helps rejuvenate the whole body. But you can see how important that would be for athletes when something is just going to supercharge the effect of regenerating, rebuilding. It's got a whole history of muscle building, blood building, kidney and adrenal fortifying, physically transforming. It's loaded with a bunch of awesome things for increasing red blood cells, anabolic and growth stimulating properties, slows the deterioration of aging, all sorts of stuff. We literally have pamphlets that have like 10 pages on all the effects of deer antler, because it's crazy. But so that's deer antler. Tomcat Ali, there's a couple mentions on here for stuff, especially for men. So men are wanting to know, how can I increase testosterone levels? Because testosterone is highly linked to building muscle, energy, sexual function, all that type of stuff. So Tomcat Ali is probably the most well-known herb to increase testosterone levels. Some studies say, and I don't know how true it is, but they say up to 3 to 4 times boosting testosterone. So, but it has been shown, and there's a lot of natural bodybuilders that they just pound this Tomcat Ali because it naturally increases testosterone. There's a difference between these performance-enhancing drugs that are an actual testosterone that you're taking or an actual steroid. When you do that, it shuts down your own body's ability to produce that steroid. You never want to do that, and actually throws everything off balance. But if you're able to nourish your own glands to produce more of their own, it has no negative effects. So Tomcat Ali, one of the best known ones for raising testosterone. Also the next one, Tribulus terrestris, known for boosting testosterone levels, as well as other things. So, and then getting into the last couple, pine pollen and bee pollen. I love bee pollen. I'm beginning to be more familiar with pine pollen now, but bee pollen is a substance that you can't even reproduce outside of nature. Scientists have tried to take down and reproduce all of the enzymes, the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, and feed it to bees, and they actually die. So they can't even figure out what is missing that we can't synthetically create. It has the same exact everything, but somehow we feed it to the bees and they die. The bee pollen, they collect from tons of different flowers, the pollen, and they take it back and feed it to the baby bees. So it's incredibly dense in minerals. Some people say it's the most nutritionally dense thing on the planet in one single source. Amino acids, vitamins, minerals, hormones, enzymes. It's one of the richest known sources. So a lot of bodybuilders are huge on it. Bodybuilders, Olympic athletes use it to increase strength, endurance. Bee pollen has all of its 22 amino acids, half of which are in free form and ready to be absorbed right away. Takes minimal, talking about digestion and utilization, you don't really need to break down bee pollen very much for it to just use all that stuff. So another fascinating thing that I love to take, I've taken it for years, adding into my smoothies. It can also help with allergies, just a side mention. If you get the local bee pollen that has the pollen from the plants and trees around here, it can actually help your body deal with the allergies. I've seen that time and again. A roommate of mine actually turned me onto that side of it. He would take a teaspoon a day, straight bee pollen. It took care of all of his allergies. So, and then pine pollen is kind of the same idea, but it's the pollen from the pine trees that falls down one time a year. It has similar nutrient properties, but I guess the differentiating thing is I hear more about pine pollen's ability to increase testosterone levels. It's got more plant sterols and hormone precursors. Again, not giving you a steroid or a hormone, but giving you the precursors for your body to produce more of its own. So I know more about pine pollen, the fact that it's super nutritious, but it has more of an increase on those hormone levels, which is beneficial for athletes. So the last couple, and I'll be done. Astaxanthin. It was in my little section of the antioxidants, but astaxanthin is considered by many as the most powerful antioxidant on the planet. I put some stats in here, but 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, 550 times stronger than green tea and vitamin E, 11 times stronger than beta-carotene, and 20 times stronger than synthetic astaxanthin. Astaxanthin is grown, it comes from a red algae, and it actually protects the algae when it's out in the sun all day, like down in Hawaii or in the Pacific, where stuff's out in the sun all day. It's actually protecting that algae, and it does the same thing for our body. It protects our cells. That's why it's so powerful. But there are people that are creating synthetic astaxanthin, and it doesn't have the same power. So you want the real thing. But yeah, super important. Athletes take it all the time for protecting the cells, protecting the joints, the skin, the eyes, the brain, helping recover quicker, that type of stuff. So another powerful one that I love to take and a lot of athletes take. So, and then at the end, I just gave some sample ideas of what you can take, like pre-workout and post-workout. Usually always a combination of fruit, and especially post-working out, adding in a little bit of high-quality plant-based protein powder would be good to replenish that protein and help break things down. But yeah, I gave some ideas, adding in some herbs pre-workout, some herbs post-workout, but you can just get creative and try different things. I kind of formulated these for the better ones that I thought pre-workout and the way they give you energy and stamina during your workout, and better ones at the end of your workout to help rebuild, lessen the effects of inflammation and damage. But anyway, tons of those herbs you can use pre-workout, post-workout, or during the day. But those are some ideas for athletes and people that work out. Some sample ideas. So yeah, just get creative with that stuff and try these herbs and change. We change our diets and partner with God in our health, and we see amazing things happen. So yeah, I guess that's all I got for today. And then I'll take questions if you guys have any.
On the herbs that you're using in your shakes, are you just buying those separate and putting those in as you want versus a mix so that you can control what's going on and see its response in your body then?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to repeat it for the camera. So the question is, am I, like in these herbs shakes that I put down here, am I just buying the herbs individually, or am I buying a pre-mixed one, or how am I doing that? What's the best way to go about that? You can do it either way. There are some companies that have good quality, like pre-workout supplements that don't have the crazy stuff in them. There's a lot of pre-workouts that are really bad for you, but most of the time for me, I'm buying them individually and adding them in when I want, and I'll take them at other times. But there are some concentrated pills too that have just the herbs in them, like an adaptogenic blend of 6 or 7 different herbs that you can take, pop those, or yeah, there's different pre-workout, post-workout things that have a lot of this in them. Sometimes they don't have as high concentrations as I would like, so that's why I like to control everything and have them individually, so I know exactly how much I'm getting of each and what exactly I'm taking, and that there's nothing added to it. But yeah, you just got to look and be creative and find good sources, because there are some out there that have good quality stuff pre-mixed, and it might be easier or less time consuming. So, yeah.
Just one more question.
Okay.
I've forgotten on androgens. Can you tell me what that is again?
Androgens, from what I understand, is that's like androgenic effect would be that kind of testosterone that I believe when you're talking about androgens, it's that rebuilding that it's usually talking about testosterones or precursors to hormones, stuff like that.
So that's on the same pathway as testosterone?
Mm-hmm. I don't know specifically if testosterone is an androgen or, like I said, the exact thing, but usually when they're talking about androgens, it's talking about, that testosterone and the rebuilding process. And specifically, I don't know the exact definition of androgens, but
okay.
So hopefully that helps.
Because it said the ratio of androgen to estrogen. So it's basically in our chemical-laden world of xenoestrogens, you're going to take that to help offset that, maybe?
Yeah, so you're talking about in where it says the ratio of balancing the ratio of androgens to estrogens. So obviously there are a lot of estrogenic things with plastics and soy and all that. And so, a lot of these, I don't remember what was specifically talking about there, but
Pine bark is
the pine pollen. And a lot of these help balance the ratio. So that's talking about balancing that ratio of the estrogen and testosterone. And it's not just estrogen and testosterone too. There's others, but that's kind of the simplistic version. If you have too high of one or the other, it causes issues. So you want to have good high levels of them, but they need to be balanced. And so that's what I love about the herbs, and especially like maca and pine pollen. They balance those levels and give you high, healthy levels of them too, as they're needed. So, hopefully that answers.
With all the choices, and a lot of them, they seem to overlap, they'll address the same. How do you know which one you should take or which ones you should mix?
So,
I mean, we're not looking to bodybuild and work out.
Right.
But we're always looking to be healthier and have more stamina and more strength.
Yeah.
And then, I've had an adrenal gland problem in the back, 12 years ago that almost killed me. So, how do you know, or which ones do you take?
Yeah. So the question for the camera is, there's obviously a lot of herbs that I talked about, and some of the benefits are overlapping. How do you know which ones to use, what to use first?
He works here. You can answer.
It's kind of a hard question to answer because some of them do overlap, and some of it is doing more of your own research and trying some. I mean, I could give you my suggestions and talking to you more about your specific need, but everybody's a little different, and a lot of these herbs are good for the adrenals. You talked about having adrenal, and I would maybe encourage you to look at the last class I did that talked highly about the adrenals and which herbs are good for the adrenals. There are herbs that are good for the adrenals that I didn't put in here, but a lot of these are good for the adrenals too. So, how do you know exactly? There's no exact science, but there are some that I would, maybe we can talk afterwards and I'll give you some suggestions. But doing more of your own research and seeing what you're specifically wanting. You can add these, because I am talking about these herbs' relation to athletic performance, but a lot of them are used just for general vitality, general energy, general helping slow the effects of aging. And a lot of them do have some of the same effects, but a lot of them are slightly different too. So I don't know if that answers, but we can talk more. Yeah.
She's a sponge.
Any other questions? No? Okay.
So basically, and I've heard this before, if you're eating fruits, don't put fruit in a salad. Like you'll see apples with your lettuce and stuff, or they'll put grapes in with a salad. You're not supposed to do that, right?
So you're talking about food combining, and if it's okay to mix with fruit and salads and stuff like that.
They'll make a salad with your whatever lettuce you want, but then they'll put in grapes, or they'll put up apples, and then they'll put nuts, and so.
Yeah, I don't think the combination of
fruit and vegetables.
the salad specifically, like the greens with the fruit is a huge issue. But if you start adding in other things like the oils and the fats, and and then it gets into a more complex mixture that's harder to digest. So I mean, you can add some fruit. I mean, some dried fruit is really common on salads, or avocado. I wouldn't do fruit and avocado because the avocado is more fatty, but the vegetable with the avocado is actually considered a fruit, is a great combination. Or just the greens with a little bit of fruit too is fine. But if you're going to add in the nuts and the fatty stuff, then it's best not to have the fruit. Again, I would maybe encourage you to go and find online, and I wish I had a good resource for you. Maybe I can find you one where it talks about all the more specifics of food combining and what is best and what's not. And I mean, there are some other rules, but the big ones are that protein and starch combo is a no-no, and trying to eat fruits primarily by themselves. But it's really bad though if you combine the fruits with like meat. That's a really, really bad one too. But yeah, fruits with a little salad is fine as long as you're not having high fat. Oh yeah. Anything else? All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Very good.
Hope you enjoyed. I went a little long, but